Hello, my name is Kellen and this is Killing for Company. Today we have an episode talking about some 2021 releases, but before we do that I wanted to get into some housekeeping. This past month of June I put together a giveaway in conjunction with the amazing people over at Midwest Warning and Coagulate the band for a giveaway surrounding the art of kurtosis and trying to take some participation or get some participation in different kinds of organizations and support. And he was looking to combat racial violence here in the States or abroad. So just want to take a quick moment to kind of recap that. I just want to thank everyone who participated, who even sent out words of support. I had people reach out who's kind of unfamiliar territory for them, but they just wanted to offer a few words, supporting what I was doing, and we'll see what happens in the future. I would like to continue to do stuff like this on my channel. This is my first shot doing anything like that, and I could not have done so without the support of Coagulate the band, Midwest Warning, in all this organization and effort. And I just want to take a special moment. It was cool talking with the members of Coagulate. There was some sort of back and forth when I put out this video. They said some incredibly kind things out on Facebook, and I just want to say that meant a lot. And thank you for being so open and just kind of talking about the subject with me privately. And once again, thank you for everyone who participated in the giveaway. So just to kind of get this rolling here, I wanted to just everyone who followed the instructions and gave me some information and donated to the organization of their choice. Thank you very much. There were some people who even had a copy of The Art of Kurtosis, but still wanted to show their support, and so donated it, and that's what it's all about. Whether it was time or money, making an effort to address issues of racial violence. What was the point of the video, and for everyone who kind of took that into consideration and took it to heart and did something about it, thank you very much. But the winner for The Art of Kurtosis is Jake over at Hymns of My Wake. Thank you very much. I will get this. If you want to get a hold of me, you can send like a direct message on Instagram or find a way to get a hold of me somehow, and I will make sure to get this sent off your way. Once again, thank you for everyone who participated. Jake, you've got some amazing death metal coming your way. It's kind of interesting because I know this is not necessarily your preferred genre, but this is Coagulate is an amazing band. So for this kind of death metal, there'll be probably something you don't have a lot of in your collection. But once again, I even saw that you've got a promotion of your own similar to this with various organizations that are sort of taking an activist stance on different causes. So I'm going to participate in that and kind of send some attention and promotion your way, hopefully, in the process. But either way, thank you once again, Coagulate, Midwest Warning, everyone who participated. Awesome. So now that we've got that taken care of, for this video, just so you know, in the background here, I haven't done any 2021 releases, and we're here about halfway or over halfway 2021. So I wanted to kind of, at midway point in the year, offer a few things that I've picked up that I have not seen a lot of on various YouTube channels or social media, discussing and kind of for a summer that for me is very much going to be dedicated to death metal as a genre. Bring a few items or albums to light and kind of give them a bit of a shine here on the channel. Hopefully everyone who watches this video checks them out and adds some new death metal to your collection here in 2021 that you potentially didn't hear about. So in the background we are listening to, this is Carcinoma. They are a atmospheric death metal band that is composed of primarily live members from Abyssic. So if you like that style of death metal, this is sort of like those band members or those live participants splintered and sort of started their own project. So this is really cool on Rat King Records out of London in England / the UK, and entitled Labiscation on Rat King Records. So that's me playing around in the background there. So all these that I'll be showing are 2021 releases. Okay, so moving from one London band to another. This is pretty wild. So some of you may have seen this. I don't know how this is meant to be pronounced as ATVM or Atom. I don't know how they would like us to pronounce that, but whatever you're going with here. So this is entitled Famine, Putrid, and Fucking Endless. I believe this is an independent release, and it comes with this, I mean, that artwork there is pretty unique, right? It's not something you usually see. And it came with this interesting packaging. I don't know if the band members themselves are doing the art, but it kind of came with like a little sketch doodle. But they sound like a band that maybe the first thing they heard within the death metal genre was At the Gates, Slaughter the Soul, and then worked their way back. So to something like Gorguts and Atheist. To me, this is a progressive death metal project, and I, don't get tons of progressive death metal, but it definitely has an older, like 90s aesthetic to it. Okay, sorry about that. A little bit of an interruption there. Anyway, so it's a progressive death metal band, but it's got, I would say, combinations of that like death thrash. The reason I bring up Slaughter the Soul is there is like a melodic characteristic to this band, but it comes in sort of just like small moments. If you had stripped back all of the At the Gates sort of Swedish production style and guitar tone, that's not the important point in when I make that comparison. I think the reason I do go there is because it's like the immediacy that At the Gates is, or that At the Gates can offer. It just sounds instantly sort of accessible and enjoyable, but it has also that like jazz component that would make you think of a band like Atheist. So you get these pieces where it's like it could splinter off. You could understand where a band like At the Gate sort of moves in towards like what metalcore became, and I don't want to give that impression at all. It is far more concentrated on that sort of like death thrash fringe, and then it moves closer towards an old progressive death metal aesthetic afterwards. So really cool stuff. There's a crazy sort of bass work here as well, which is totally in line with the Tony Choi work that you would hear on an Atheist record. So progressive death metal with sort of an old school death thrash flair to it, a little bit of melodic sensibility as well. So that is ATVM with Famine, Putrid, and Fucking Endless. Next one is Upon the Altar. Man, this is probably the most disgusting death metal that I've heard this year, and I'll kind of get to what I mean by that in a second here. But out of Poland, and they kind of play a blackened death metal, but the guitar tone here is so unique, and it immediately reminded me of Profanatica. So there's like that Profanatica time period where like their early work comes out and it's sort of demos and nothing really like fully realized. It culminates into like a LP in the way that you were getting from you would typically get from a band, right? You get they got some compilations and demos and so forth, and then in 2007, I believe Profanatica actually comes out with like a specific LP. Profanaticus de Domonosha, I think is the title off the top of my head. But I remember listening to that in 2007, and just the bass on it, the guitar tone to it was completely unlike what you were traditionally getting from usually black metal bands. It wasn't, that second wave influenced tone. It was really bass heavy and almost reminded me of like a stoner doom guitar tone, and it made for a very unique, because it is like explicitly black metal. Like Profanatic is very much in that like hard line satanic black metal, but just the guitar tone did not match everything that you've come to appreciate and know. So it felt to me like where they were making a pretty I don't know if you would call it antagonistic statement in terms of trying to keep black metal sort of alive and well, and make sure that the fan base was still, did not get too comfortable with what the genre is supposed to be. It was meant to sort of offend and emotionally engage in a way that you traditionally weren't getting at the same time when you look at like the rise of other bands that were doing like black gaze and so forth. So that's the first thing when I heard Upon the Altar, that's the first thing I thought of, because this is like, it sounds like a black metal project, from that era. So you think like Blood or Vaughn. It's incredibly simplistic black metal. Probably like that's where you get the death metal sort of side to it. It's not it's not second wave black metal, right? It's a bit more of that primitive black metal that almost teeters the line on not being quite death metal, not being quite black metal, but it doesn't have a lot of the same sort of, I don't get the same sort of feeling when I'm listening to like Beherit, right? Where it's not like that bestial black metal as much as it's just like incredibly gross death metal. Literally, it sounds like the band is sort of crawling out of a tar pit. That's the best way I can describe it. Everything is sort of warped and combined, and it's really hard to separate the guitar tone from the bass tone here. And that makes it so much more like unique as a project by comparison to the other sort of bestial records. Still firmly to me a death metal record that is just completely wrapped in sort of like a vile satanic sort of dress or paint or exterior that limits, you know, the extent of all the traditional death metal characteristics. Maybe it's the best way I can potentially frame that, but anyway, it's one of the more interesting blackened death metal records I've heard this year. Completely unique, nothing else like it. And that's the closest thing I can sort of compare it to would be those Profanatica records. So something to check out. Polish band. It has a Latin title to it. Let me get it right. Absid ab ordine luminis. So, Upon the Altar, check that one out. Wild stuff. Seriously, the grossest death metal project that has nothing to do with like gore. Next, I think we're off to Belgium here. This is Gateway, and this is a EP released on Chaos Records, and this is Flesh Reborn is the title here. This is like a death doom band, and to my knowledge, I don't think they have a full length to their name either. I could be wrong about that, but they just play like it's almost teetering on funeral doom. But if you're into Cougulate or Spectral Voice, it's a more modern band. There's little pieces of this that you could say like if you had created a band like Hooded Menace but made them a bit more obtuse, right? Like I think Hooded Menace still has, when they are offering sort of lead melodic qualities, they are a bit more well structured and you can identify them with some clarity. This has got that kind of like modern death doom aesthetic where you don't get that cleanliness. It's sort of washed into the sort of echo. And I have not heard a lot of great funeral doom. This sort of operates in a middle ground for me. Like last year's Convocation is another band that I think is doing that like almost death doom, almost funeral doom. But this is everything. You know, there's the same kind of subgenre sort of characteristics there, but it's just sort of blended into something a little bit less discernible. Anyway, Flesh Reborn, sort of a couple of tracks, and then the closer is like 13 minutes, and that's really sort of the defining. I believe it bears it's a title track from this EP, but one to look forward to. I really am excited if they get a chance. If they are with Chaos Records on a more permanent basis, or they're going to move to a larger label, this is definitely one to sort of keep an eye out for in terms of death doom bands that are on the come up. To some degree, if you liked last year's Blood-Soaked Necrovoid from Costa Rica, they're another band that sort of plays in the same space as Gateway. So, Gateway, Flesh Reborn. Laparotomy. This is a brutal death metal project, and it just came out recently, I want to say, and it's everything that you would think of in terms of brutal death metal. Ascendancy through hypnagogic thought process is the name of the full length, and it's the debut full length. And they sound like everything you would expect from like the Northeast. They're from Texas, but it's definitely, you know, the standard sort of like internal bleeding, turn devourment. So they've got that like slam, brutal death metal sort of thing figured out. But that's not why this record is really worth your time. What makes this interesting is it is like one of the more experimental, and I don't even know if that's the right word, almost like to the point of being transgressive or exploitative, with their use of synth. It's like a synth pop landscape, right? Like if you look at this album artwork, all I can think of is like that scene, you know, at the end of Fulci's Beyond, where they're sort of like venturing into hell, right? But instead of doing that, they were walking into a landscape full of muscle tissue and cartilage. You know, but it's still like a dream, right? And none of this is incredibly threatening as much as it is sort of like a strange glimpse into subconsciousness. That's the best way I can potentially frame it. Like it's like a dreamscape, and the synth is so lush and warm. You know, last year's Afterbirth, this feels to me like they're clearly doing progressive, brutal death metal, and it's because of their cosmic theme here, their theme, I should say. It's it fits, right? Where I don't feel Laparotomy is playing in that same space. It is very much like a dream to me, but you get also like that disturbing sort of introduction or collision with brutal death metal, right? So even at the beginning of this record starts with a sort of brutal death metal sound, and everything is familiar, and then it's like the horizon opens up and the sun, you know, you've been sort of running through the night and the sun finally rises and you see the terrain that you've been navigating, and it is just, you know, like I said, it's this world. It's that kind of capillaries and muscle tissue and tendons and everything that you would sort of make up within human anatomy that works well for brutal death metal, but it's a dreamscape, and that synth work just sort of creates this whole other world. I mean, it's probably going to be the most polarizing record out of the options I've chosen, just because it is so weird. I think brutal death metal fans like are going to not. So I can imagine them not wanting to, you know, delve into something like this, and it's not gonna, like, whatever, it's clearly brutal death metal, so I'm not gonna, if you like the Cocteau Twins, I'm not going to necessarily recommend this record for you, right? Like, but it's that kind of dream pop, you know, internal bleeding meets the Cocteau Twins. I mean, I don't know what to say, but really interesting. Listen, Cannibal Cam over at the Growl, the death metal documentary, put this up on his social media, and I swooped it up, and, you know, immediately after listening to a couple of tracks, killer stuff. So thank you to that introduction there, and yeah, check that one out. One of the more, I think this is actually on CDN Records, but wild stuff. is Cambion. So this, I think, they are at this point like an international project. Like originally started out of Texas and then moved to Europe. This is Cougulate, the Celestial Requiem. I think I got that right. Wow. Okay, this is just death metal to peel the paint off the walls. Definitely in that like Angel Corpse or Brazil's Rebellion style of death metal, just incredibly fast. But at the same time, I feel like there's this well-crafted element of German thrash as well. So like Sodom or Creator kind of appeal here. And it sort of navigates those two, like blistering death metal to blistering thrash. Absolutely scorching in terms of its pacing. And I don't know, like Perdition Temple is a band that, you know, stands out as of late. It's interesting, like if you think about, so the members here were part of a project called Reign of Terror that at the early 2000s, I think they just put out one full length. But, you know, they emerged, Reign of Terror sort of emerged at a time when that Angel Corpse sound is popular. And they didn't put out a whole lot of material, but their full length is great. I think from year 2000, it is much more in a style of death metal that is happening in Texas. I think that looks at like kind of the brutal death metal that is on the way. I think Blessing the Decapitated from Valor had come out just, you know, a little bit before that. So the metal within Texas is sort of shifting in that from something that is potentially like inspired by a band like Imprecation that is satanic and then is drifting towards more brutal stuff inspired from New York. Reign of Terror sort of navigates those two things. Cambion feels like an opportunity to honor bands that were also happening at that time period, but they weren't able to sort of, the musicians weren't able to pay homage to them in the 2000s with a project like Reign of Terror. Like it'd be too much of a shift. Cambion, is much more that super fast death metal with thrash metal influences. This is on Lavadome. One of the Lavadome is a record label that I like to listen to for like 2000s, early 2000s death metal, which is not something that is incredibly popular at the moment, but there are bands like, if you like that style, that super fast Vital Remains style of death metal, check this out. That combined, with the thrash stuff has made this probably the most, in terms of the pacing, one of the more up-tempo death metal releases for this year. Just tons of fast-paced, nasty, aggressive, fire-breathing death metal. So those are the 5 records, or 5 CDs I have here for you to pick up and check out that are potentially were not on your radar here for 2021. I will put links to all of those here below. Jake, if you want to give me your contact information, the email or Instagram, whatever works for you, I will get the Coagulate, Art of Kurtosis sent out your way. And the rest of the summer for me is going to be focused on death metal projects. So I'm excited to get to those, and that'll culminate in basically 2 different series. A CD series for the most part, and a vinyl series. And I'll be announcing those here in the weeks to come. But until then, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys later. Bye.